I'm Jeanette Keynes from Jewelry Art Sink, and in this video I'm going to show you how to solder a 22 karat gold bezel down into a shank. So the shank kind of curves up and fits along the sides. We're getting ready to solder this bezel down into the ring shank. So basically, what you normally do when you're making a ring like this is you make the ring to fit you and solder it shut and make it beautiful and round and everything like you normally would do. Then we took our bezel, laid it on top of the seam and marked it, and then you saw inside that mark. Because basically then what you're doing is you're creating an opening just big enough for your stone, or big enough for your bezel rather. What most people want to do is just not solder their bezel shut, you know what I mean, and kind of just fit it in there. Forget it, it's total bullshit.
The shank, you mean?
Yeah, exactly, because they kind of just like, oh, I want to fit it around and make the opening the right size. You drive yourself crazy. It's easier to solder it shut and then cut out your section. So we've got it fit in there pretty well because you can see it's not falling out. It definitely can't be that loose. But I am gonna put this down on the table and press it and hopefully make sure that it's all in line. Just to move over a little bit. Now, the most common mistake that people make with these is A, not a super tight fit, and B, setting it up to solder with the bezel either straight down or straight up. Either like this or like this. If you're doing one of these that's fit in, if you do that, when this all gets good and hot and the flux gets good, a lot of times the bezel can slide out of position. So I'm going to show you how to do it so that that will not happen to you, but that's basically the biggest pitfall of something like this. Even with the third arm there, I've seen it too many times. You don't want that.
No, I wouldn't have.
Okay. Well, that's why I'm here, because there's no reason for you to have that experience personally. You know what I mean? So in an ideal world, this would be a little tighter and a little harder to move around. But we're dealing with the real world here, so we're rolling with it. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
keep it in mind, yes. So normally what I do to safely solder these is position it over to the side, something like this.
Okay.
Yeah, on an angle, whether to the left or the right, it doesn't really matter. It's just so that the bezel isn't either straight up or straight down on it. Because if it's over to the side, it tends not to move. Gravity is not working on it in quite the same way.
Okay.
Is that inside the bag?
Sorry. I should have cut that.
It was a solder trap. So what I'm going to do is, this is some 18 soft, right? So I'm going to cut it up and I'm going to ball up some little pieces. And we're going to apply our solder from the inside. No matter how tempted you are, never add it from the top. It will create messy cleanup situation that you do not want. So no matter what your brain tells you, never tell yourself you know what, I will add a piece from the top. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because on the bright side, honestly, these are usually very fast and easy to solder. The soldering is nothing on this. It's getting everything in the right place and nice and tight and over to the side and all that kind of shenanigans. But it's actually really easy to do.
You need to get it.
Okay. So I'm gonna ball these up.
I'm gonna move around.
Okay, so I'm gonna ball up the solder. Well, if the gods are with me, I'll probably only use one piece on each side, maybe two.
Okay.
But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what the fates have in store for us today. Okay, dipping in some paste puffs. That will fucker slipped a little bit, I think. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why, like I said, in the future, a tighter fit will make our life a little less stressful, but we're gonna make it work.
So that was due to my file.
It's just, yeah, it's just not, you know, this is your first one. It's not gonna be perfect, that's life, but I'm just making sure, you know what I mean, from the side that everything's like, because I don't want things to get funky looking. Alright, so I'm gonna put a little wet flux there. A little ball of solder, just like so. Alexis, can you see that setup?
Not really. Let me come around again.
Sure. Because actually this is really important. Do you know what I mean? That the bezel's off at an angle and that the solder is on the inside of the shank, touching the bezel and the shank. That's the whole key right there, and that's the only place you want to add your solder from.
Okay.
Because once I flow this, let's say it's not filled. I mean, it probably will be filled because this is not that big. But let's say you would just keep feeding it in from that exact spot. Because that spot is super easy to clean up. Okay? Okay, dry it. If the solder pops, put it back in place. And basically when you're heating from down here, it's important to heat both. You know what I mean? We got to heat the shank, we got to heat the bezel. You see that? Right in there. See that? Don't touch it because it's hot, but you see what I mean? Fills right in there. And it's perfect and requires like basic, all you really do to clean it up at the end is maybe fold a piece of green paper, you know, or something like that. Okay? And then on the inside, a lot of times I would use a cylinder wheel. So since this is your first one, I'm going to demonstrate the other side as well, and then you can do the other ones yourself. Okay? But it's going to be exactly like this.
Okay. And then if I need to add more solder, you don't think I will? No. Okay.
That's what I was saying. This is relatively small. One piece is enough, but you know, for a much bigger ring, it would probably take multiple passes and multiple pieces of solder, you know. And normally I remember to flux both sides so that it stays nice and clean, but it didn't. But I think that that's not so dirty that my paste flux is going to do the job. But next time I'm going to remember to do that. Okay. Okay, so you see how it's sitting right there. I'm just hitting both. There we go.
Okay, so did it initially go into the back a little, but then you moved it? Or no?
I'm sorry?
Did it initially like flow?
Yeah, you see, yes, exactly.
But then you pushed it.
Well, basically then what I do is if I see that, that means I've got a little more heat on the bezel. I gotta like, do you see what I mean? The solder goes where the most heat is. So if the solder's going too much in one direction, I know I've gotta
And
get out.
Went where you wanted it.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. So. See what I mean? And that method gives you a beautiful smooth finish. You know what I mean? Like everything looks good. Throw it in the pickle, and we'll take another shot of it just to show what it looks like when it's not all dirty. But it looks great. All right.